Hey everyone! So today I'm going to be doing a video or another video on how you should study effectively. Please go as well on the playlist where I have other videos about this, because I may not be saying everything because it's already in other videos. So all of these videos are quite actually useful, so do go and look at them. But this one is going to be about two parts. One part is about how you can actually do the best learning possible, and then the other part is how you should approach it when it comes to the exams, okay? So, how can you do it? Number one, smaller study sessions instead of study marathons. And I know this has to do with your organization, and I know that sometimes this is hard to do, but you need to organize your time well in advance, even when it feels like your exam is 4 months away and is a long time for you to start, or it's too early for you to start revising. You actually need to do it every day a little bit. Have a timetable where you have 30 minutes of, I don't know, physics, and then 30 minutes of chemistry, and so on, because that works much better than studying marathons, okay? Because and it's easy to understand. Imagine if you would have a lesson that would be 3 hours long with no breaks. You would not learn as much as maybe in 3 different lessons separately, right? So it is a better way, and this is scientific, is a better way to actually get your information in an efficient way into your brain, okay? Place and time. Have an actual place and an actual time where you are doing your revision, because the place needs to be well equipped, of course, and the time is also because your brain automatically prepares itself to start revising in that time, or to be ready for learning in that particular time, in that particular place. It's like when you pass through some place, imagine that you're walking around the street and something brings you back a memory of something funny that happened there. It's the same with the study. Your brain starts to allocate that place where you are doing your revision and the time that you keep doing it. So let's say 4 p.m., that's when you start all the days. Is going to be already prompt for the learning, okay? Oh no, this is me. All right. Review periodically what you have studied before. So it's all very nice and good if you're doing smaller study revision sessions, but you should also review what you have done some time ago, because you want to be able to remember. So again, this is how to study effectively. So imagine that you did something 7 months ago at school. Even if you did in small study sessions, you will forget one thing or another. So take some time to actually, in your small study sessions, to review what you have done before, okay? Also, and this helps a lot, and especially I do that a lot. I'm a physics teacher in astrophysics, so I do that a lot in my topics as well. Look for similarities or different between different topics of the same subject. We'll have links that will be made between ideas, so look for these things. And for example, if you learn about electric charges and gravitational fields, you're going to see that the formulas are very similar. You're going to see that it's more or less the same type of diagrams, it's more or less the same rules. So that means that if you know one part well, you will know the other chapter well. For example, when I relate in electric circuits, when I relate resistance with the friction in the electrons, then you know, it makes you already, if you understand about friction, you're like, oh, okay, so obviously, you know, resistance heats up the wires. So stuff like that, okay? Look for differences as well. You can think about, well, while a nuclear power station does not give me any greenhouse gases, the fossil fuel ones will. So look at these things, see if there are any links, but don't waste a lot of time trying to find the whole link about all the subjects. You know, if you find links, you should look and find some links, similarities, differences, but don't spend all that time trying to find a link when it's not obvious to you, okay? Also, understand the topic. Don't just recall facts, and prepare to teach the topic to someone else. This is because recalling facts is going to mean that you're going to know stuff for the next 24 hours, 2 days, maybe a couple of hours even. And if you understand the topic, then you will be able to memorize it for longer. And I shouldn't even have said memorize it, but you will be able to have it in your brain for longer, because understanding means that it will make sense to you. So even years after that, you're like, yeah, that's how it works. Recalling is not going to stay in your brain long term. The part of preparing to teach the topic to someone else is for two reasons. Number one, if you can teach it to someone else and they can understand it, you know the topic well. Because not only you know the facts, you know how to put it simply to other people. You know how to put some examples in so everyone can understand. The other part is, and again, this is science, people that have been asked to practice something to teach someone else, and people that have been asked just to learn something, the ones that were expected to teach, they did much better because they were preparing their brains as well to get the information in a more organized way. So prepare to, and imagine, that you're teaching your dog, for example, or your parents, or your sister, any of these things, okay? Use examples. Real life examples work better than abstract ideas. Now again, there are some people that may find that abstract ideas work fine with them, and it's completely fine. Each person is different. However, having some examples or trying to make analogies will really help you to understand how things work. Okay, so again, in electric circuits, you can do that quite a lot. What else? I cannot remember a particular topic here that I could do it really quickly without making the video a little bit longer. But look for examples. So for example, all right, the Doppler effect. Every time I'm teaching about the Doppler effect and I'm trying to explain that there is a change in the frequency of the wave, I always say, look, when an ambulance is passing by or a police car is passing by, you have different sounds when they are approaching you and moving away from you. And students already know that sounds and the frequency of the sound has to do with the pitch. So they're like, oh yeah, it's true. So this relates to that, and there we go. So having examples does help you quite a lot understanding the topic long term as well, okay? Also, and this I didn't know until recently, if you actually switch in your revision between wording and visuals, that is going to help your brain so much about long-term information. So for example, you can use a graph or drawing or diagram to explain a topic, and then you can, a topic that you wrote about already, and then you can do the other way around. You can then use a topic to produce a visual representation of the topic. So, and I'll give you an example in a second. So you could have a mind map or a spider diagram, as they say sometimes. To say, for example, again, all types of renewables and non-renewables, advantages and disadvantages, and then you would, from there, write a full paragraph about how they work and comparing them and all that stuff. At the same way, why don't you do the other way around? So you have a full paragraph with everything explained, and you make a diagram out of it. And this actually was oh my God, sorry, I forgot the word. It did show that people were studying and understanding facts more effectively than if they would not do these switches. Again, don't over switch, because otherwise it can be confusing. Now, let me show you an example, and this is something that I told my students just about last week. For example, this is a graph where it shows the type of extrasolar planets we found, and it shows the periods that the planet takes to go around the star, the mass of the planet, and each dot represents a certain number found in different techniques: radial, transits, microlensing, imaging. So if you look here, there is obviously a pattern. There are some techniques that are biased towards a certain type of planets, whereas others are going to be better for lower mass planets. They are further away from the star, while transit and radial velocity work really well for all types of masses, better for the bigger type of masses, quite close to the star. So again, imagine that, and I did ask my students to do that. You have this diagram, explain the diagram, explain this graph, knowing what you know about the technique. How does it work? What is biased towards? Why is it biased towards that? So how does the technique work? At the same time, so they can use the graph to explain that. At the same time, they can pick their knowledge and say, and draw a graph and say, this is more or less the area where I would find transit planets. This is more or less the area where I would find radial velocity planets. And I would find the microlensing a little bit further back, so longer periods at even smaller masses, okay? So switching between words and visuals help you a lot, okay? Put away your notes and write everything that you know about the topic. So after you did all of that, you kind of want to test yourself, and this is going to help you in a great way, because what is going to happen is not only you're seeing how much you remember, you also will notice that maybe you are explaining something in a different way. You found a different example, you found a different link. Sometimes when you put away your notes, you stop thinking so much about those notes and you're doing it yourself, and you're like, oh, this actually relates to that. You may even find a better explanation in your own new notes than in the old notes. Also, when you compare the old notes with the new notes, you will see bits and pieces that you forgot. So bits and pieces that you haven't learned as well, okay? Have a place for all your misconceptions and mistakes. This is very important. So have a specific place in your notes, and I spoke about this several times in videos, where you have just everything that you had wrong before, because those are the ones that you want to pay attention to and not repeat them. So remember your mistakes so you don't do them again. Alright, so have it in a different paper, have it in a specific place in your book, have it in flashcards. A part of flashcards, only the flashcards in blue, for example, will be about misconceptions and mistakes, okay? And, of course, and again, biased towards my topic, which is science, physics, astrophysics, practice, practice, and practice. There's nothing better than practicing, looking at past papers, look at mark schemes, attempt as many questions as you can, okay? All that stuff, that is going to help you a lot, okay? So this is how you do, and obviously, as you can look here, and if you're just going to have your exams in a couple of days, you're going to see, well, I cannot do all of this, right? So this is how you learn long term, okay? So this is thinking about the whole year or a couple of months, okay? Or weeks even. It depends on how much time you have in your hands, and I apologize for that. So if you now are actually going for exams, is to do with your strategy. Of course, we are assuming you know the topics already, but there are strategies that you also need to take into account. What topics go into the exam? Make sure you go to the exam having known or having studied everything that is possible to come in that exam. You obviously don't want to go to an exam without studying chapter 2 when the exam is about 3 chapters and one of them is chapter 2, or the other way around. You may spend a lot of time revising about something and then that doesn't come to your exam at all. So know the topics well. Which areas do you need to focus? Is it about uncertainties? Is it about practical skills? Or is it about problem solving? Okay, so look for the trends in the exams. What is that exam about, okay? And sometimes they tell you, you know already that some exams are all about practical skills. Others, they are just about problem solving, okay? What type of questions do you need to prepare for? Multiple choice questions, and I will be doing a video about, you know, techniques for multiple choice questions. Short answer questions, comprehension, application, problem solving. Again, know how you're going to answer those questions. It's good enough to know the topic, of course, but if you actually want to go to your exam and maximize the grade that you have, you need to know how to answer the type of question you will be given, okay? So prepare for those type of questions. How much are the areas in your exam words? So, you know, maybe you don't need to focus as much, especially if you are running out of time, in something that is going to count for 10% of your exam, and maybe you should focus more on something that is worth about 80% of your exam, okay? So how much each part of the exam is worth, each type of areas or which type of questions, okay? How much is it really worth, if you have only 5 multiple choice questions, to focus so much on multiple choice when you actually need to understand the problem solving well, and that's going to be all the questions that are left in the exam apart from those multiple choice. So look at these things, okay? What is the type of exam? So this has to do with the areas, okay? So what are they expecting from you? What is the type of language that you need to use, okay? And finally, very important, and some people tend to overlook this, manage your stress. Now, I see stress as a teacher in both ways. I see the students that haven't worked hard enough during the year, that have not listened to the teachers when we say you need to start revising, you need to do this, this and that, and then they have the panic just because they're like, I cannot do all of this in the amount of time because they haven't worked hard enough. You know, that's one type. But there's the other type, and that worries me a lot, because the other type is about people that are very high achieving and they really want to do well and they really care, and they get so stressed because they really want to do well in that topic, okay? Manage your stress, because that's not going to be helpful. You know, if you have been studying, if you have been doing everything that you should, you will be all right, okay? You should be all right. Stressing about it is only going to put you in a less effective mode when you're doing the exam, okay? If you haven't done any work, maybe that stress, that panic is going to give you that rush of adrenaline, and then suddenly you start doing a lot of things. And, you know, although I think you should always do work throughout the year, if that works for you, is fine. But if you are one of these high achieving students that cares about things and is freaking out because they get into this loop of more and more stress, manage it, because you know the topics already. So any more stress is only going to affect you. And regarding the manager of stress, go on, I believe it's the first video on the playlist that says how to study/revise, something alike, where I talk about panic attacks, what you should do if you're having one, foods that help you sleep, because sleep is obviously related with stress, how you could get a sleep routine, all that stuff, okay? So I hope it was hopeful as well as helpful. Up to my next video, be happy and healthy. Bye!